All right. Sorry, had some technical difficulties. We are live right now, right here. This should be the right link. We're back after a break. We had a windy week in Europe. Hopefully you were sailing. I was trying to. I had a kind of a crazy little trip to Portugal. So I was watching the forecast and I didn't know where to go. And I knew I wanted to sail. And I saw that there was wind in the Canaries and some swell. Also maybe wind and swell in Portugal. And I didn't know what the right call was. Morocco looked good. Actually, if Morocco was easy to travel to right now, I maybe would have gone to Morocco. And I wasn't really sure. I mean, I like the Canaries for sure. And I think on the last live stream we had, I said, all right, I'm going to go to Gran Canaria. But the idea of getting conditions in Portugal seems so much more exciting. And so I was talking with my friend Paul, who you guys know from the live stream. And I was like, all right, are we going to go to Portugal? And we made the decision last minute. We both got new babies. So his wife came to Hamburg, stayed with my wife and the kids. And it looked like it was going to be good for, I think, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's okay. We're going to get 3 solid days of sailing, go back to Hamburg. But then what happened was that the forecast kept receding. So every day it was, oh no, it's not that good today. It's going to be good tomorrow. And so it kept being like that. Tomorrow. And so I sailed every day. I managed to sail every day. But for example, my first session at Ginshu, almost no wind. There were a couple other people trying to sail. I pretty much had one wave. I had one wave and I was happy with that wave. I maybe had 4 turns on it, but it's one wave in maybe 2 hours of really difficult light wind sailing. The next day, also really, really difficult. Again, I rode a couple waves, but the wind was super light. The waves weren't great. And so then on the third day, we decided to drive down to Sagres, which, if anyone knows Portugal, that's pretty far from Cascais, where Guincho is, where we were staying. But we were so desperate for waves, and so for wind. It's not the best wave spot. And so we drove down to Sagres to sail at Tanel. We met up with Ben Proffitt, which was cool. It was windy down there. I was on a 4.5, but pretty gusty conditions and not really that great. And then the next day, which again is supposed to be epic. Every next day is supposed to be epic. And so the next day was at Ginshu. We're waiting for the wind. And I'm not sure if you guys have sailed at Ginshu, which, by the way, all right, my chat was wrong. So I'm just seeing the chat now. Hold on. YouTube is messing with me. I had some technical difficulties. So sorry for not saying hi. Hi, Tomas, Jorg, Max. Great to see y'all. Yeah, Forte was maybe good too. I don't know enough about Forte actually. So I couldn't say. But yeah, maybe Forte was good. I'm not sure. Hey, Brian. But anyway, so then this day at Ginshu, so the way it works there is you're often waiting. The wind often comes in super late at the end of the day, so you start waiting at like 3 or 4, and then it comes in at like 7. So it's a great place if you have a job, right? You can work in the city, and like a non-windsurfing job. You can work in the city and go sailing without missing it from say 7 to 9, and it can be pretty good. But anyway, so we're waiting for the wind, and it really looks like it's coming. The waves are about mast high, pretty pumping. It's kind of onshore winds, and it finally comes in, but really difficult with the wind. And people were telling me, oh, there's not enough wind. There's not enough wind. You're not going to be able to get out. And I was like, well, I'm going out. I don't care. I'm going out. I traveled all the way here. I'm dying to sail. And it was tricky to get out for sure. But after I got out through the shore break and kind of worked my way, I had to get out past the second break, then work my way upwind to where the waves were cleaner. It was actually really good. And I was maxed on the 5.2. So I was in the water, down hauling it and out hauling it, trying to get it flat as I could. And it was really like a puzzle. So I was the only one sailing those waves, and they're super difficult to figure out. And then the next day, we went a few hours north to a secret spot, which was insane. The waves were like a mile long, maybe more than a mile long. It was crazy how good they were. It was like Baja, Mexico, in Portugal. And but kind of gnarly. There were a lot of rocks. So like Paul, for example, who's a good sailor, you guys know him, he didn't go out. It was too gnarly for him with the rocks and everything. And the water was doing weird things. Like, I'm not sure if it was all the rocks or weird currents. One of the local guys there lost his gear, and it was just gone. Didn't find it again. And there's all these kind of boils, and the water was doing weird things. Hey, Den. So I had a lot of fun. I sailed for 4 hours, sailed till dark in this secret spot. Hopefully we got some footage. We were filming, so I'll post that in the group and elsewhere. But yeah, it was a trip. It was definitely an experience, dealing with new spots, fear, figuring it out. So that was my sailing. What was your sailing? Let me know. So Carl, sounds like you had some flat water sailing, working on the Flocka. Cool. Where are you in the Flockas? Are you getting some rotation? Are you getting through the wind? That's the hardest part, I think. Hey, Sven. So what about the rest of you guys? Where were you sailing? What were you up to? Yeah, Brian. Yeah. Punta San Carlos is definitely a special spot. I'd like to go back there at some point. I don't know when. But yeah, it's pretty nice when it works. Yeah, cool. So we've got some footage to go through now, in the group, I think over the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to keep reading the chat because I've been away for 2 weeks and I'm not sure if there's that much to go through. So you guys feel free to throw me questions in the chat. Yeah, right on, Max. I like your effort. You got to make sure to feel the wind and use the wind. So some of them have more whip from the wind than the others, and that's what you want to move towards and getting the control, which then will help set you up for the forward loop. Max is in our forward loop course, charging, just need some more wind. Jorg had a super light wind session, close to zero wind. Wow. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough when it's so light. I mean, I guess it can be fun as well if you're cruising around, but if you're expecting wind, then that can be tough. It can be tough. All right, I'm going to get into some of the coaching. So for example, we've got this from Bart from Cornwall. But again, like I said, if you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, put them in the chat and I'll answer them. It's a little bit weird having this break. I think this is one of the only weekends I've missed. So it's great to be back. It's great to be with you guys. So I'm going to go through this footage and then, yeah, as always, you guys ask questions. So this is from Bart in Cornwall asking for any pointers. So I don't know Cornwall. I've never sailed there. So you guys in the chat have more experience with this wave than I have. But there are definitely a few things that I see that might help you, Bart. I mean, I really like how active you are. On this wave, we've already got nice, Charles. And thanks for putting together that video. I really appreciate that. Charles put together a little video about his forward loop journey so far, or at least a portion of it. He's also in the forward loop course. So thank you, Charles, for that. All right, so about this wave, I like, Bart, that you're so active on the wave. The first point that I have is at this section, you're looking a lot up the line, up this way, and it might benefit you to look a little bit more down the line during that time period. So like here, you're looking a lot up the line, and maybe you have a feeling for what's down the line and you know what's happening. I know that's definitely the case for me sometimes, like when you're traveling up the line and then you're passing the sections where you're going to do your frontside turn, so you don't need to look down the line as much. But in general, I think it's good to be looking around with your head. So that's my first note for this wave. Next, so it looks like you're in the pocket here. I like that. You could come up and hit this whitewater, but this looks like you're in the pocket and then coming up for this next turn. So what I would like to see on this next turn is that you start trying to get, so I'll show you, I'll pause it here. You start trying to get your board. That didn't pause. Hold on. You start trying to get your board. Come on. Come on, Facebook. Hitting these sections where you've got the whitewater coming towards you and you've got some open face right here. So you've got some open face right here and the whitewater here. And just, you can do a pretty shallow bottom turn, especially for these sections where there's not a lot of power. It's just about getting your board in the right position. So you don't have to do a really technical bottom turn. And I like that you're going for the whitewater turn right on. That's really good. But what I want to see is that you really try to get your board in these sections. And you can make this. And it forces you to do a tighter bottom turn, which is good. And you're just really thinking about getting that high five. So you're just getting the board. You don't have to do a full bottom turn, but just getting the board so the bottom is facing that oncoming whitewater, and it just pushes you back in front of the wave. You're capturing the energy of the wave. Bart, I think that will be a really useful thing for you to work on, is trying to hit sections that look exactly like this. Hey, Thomas. Den, happy to hear that you're healing up. Yeah, being injured sucks. All right, then about the whitewater turn. So whitewater riding is a great way to practice. And what Bart is doing here is one of the most common mistakes that I see in people's wave riding. And that is that he is turning using his energy before he gets to the whitewater. And so instead, when you're riding whitewater, and this is the reason why riding whitewater is a great exercise, I want you to just sail up into it. You just bottom turn into the whitewater, position your board to get that high five, let the whitewater push you around. So you're not doing the turn. I've got this great model. Thank you, Ragnar, for this. So instead of coming up, so let me know if you guys can see this. So instead of coming up and then turning the board as you get to the whitewater, what you're doing, if my fist is the whitewater, is you turn up and you just keep bottom turning into the whitewater, and you can release the bottom turn pressure, but you're not trying to change direction so much as just face the bottom of the board so that it connects with the whitewater somewhere between your feet, and then you can kind of push against the whitewater, and that will redirect you, and the power of the whitewater will redirect you. And it's amazing how little actually you need to push against it, and how easily the whitewater will redirect your board, redirect your kit with speed. And you actually lose speed if you start trying to do the turn yourself, as we see here with Bart, where he starts doing the turn himself, and that disconnects him from the wave. So riding the whitewater is a really good exercise, and one of the reasons it's a good exercise is because it forces you to get that, or it doesn't force you, but it allows you to get that great energy transfer, high five connection, without worrying about the timing, because one of the most difficult aspects of wave riding is getting the timing right. But with the whitewater, the wave is already broken. And so whether you're 1 second here or there, it doesn't really matter. So that's one reason why riding whitewater is a great exercise. So Bart, those are 3 comments. Let me know if that is useful or not. All right, moving on. We got a question from Sven. The question from Sven is about riding waves in really windy conditions. And so his question is spurred by this video that I posted on Instagram, which was this crazy windy day at Hokipa. It was really, 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 really windy. I was on a 4.2. Other guys were on 3.3s, like big guys. And you know, one thing I was working on is really staying connected with the wave and really keeping the flow. And so the question from Sven is about how do you do that? And I talked a bit about doing the cutbacks in the really high wind conditions before. And so his question was a lot about the bottom turns. And sort of the short answer is that it's difficult. And there's, even in this video, you can see a lot of instances where I bounce. So having the wind allows you to cheat a little bit because you can use the power of the wind instead of the power of the wave. So in that instance, it can be useful, but in general, at least what I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to stay connected to the wave, and it's definitely a challenge. And so the first thing I'm doing is I'm putting really a lot of awareness into my toes to feel the water through the board. And then the other thing that is important is to have that really wide grip on the boom. You know, the wider the grip is, the more control you have, the more you can depower the sail. And that control is really important. So you can see here I've got this wide grip, and I'm not actually doing such a strong lay down bottom turn like I would maybe with a bigger sail. And that's one of the, hey Philip, that's one of the challenges also when you're riding such small sails, is that it can be harder to get that power transfer from the sail to the board. It's just a bit of a different dynamic when you have a 4.2 versus a 5.2 or a 3.7 versus a 4.7. So you can see here, I'm kind of in a position that actually I wouldn't really be in if it wasn't so windy. And so I'm really kind of laying the sail forward, and it's actually kind of depowering a bit. And so you can see that I'm really kind of just coasting on the wave. Here I'm picking up the power from this section with this little floater. And then here, instead of coming down into a bottom turn where my weight would go a little bit back and then forward again, I'm keeping my weight really far forward, and I'm not letting the sail power up. And so I'm going directly into this kind of lay down bottom turn with the sail kind of down and back, which keeps it depowered. And so it's a little bit more surfy than you would normally ride a wave on a windsurfer like this, where I'm really staying high on the wave. So I'm not coming in front of the wave. So I'm setting up in a position where I can use the power of the wave more, so then I don't have to rely on the wind. And so then I'm able to really kind of lie down the sail and then come up to that section. So I think staying high on the wave can definitely help, because then it allows you to use the sail less. Having that wide grip is really helpful. Really focusing on the hand movement. So that's when it's windy, I'm definitely thinking about, okay, I need to go wide on my hands and then narrow with my hands. And you know, sometimes I remember it, sometimes not, but I definitely think that it helps. And so here's an example where I've gone back. So I've got a lot of wind in the sail, and then I'm really pushing to keep that bottom turn engaged. And it's tough. Like I'm really loaded up here, and you can see that energy release into this cutback, which looks kind of cool, but actually I don't really like that I'm disconnecting this much from the wave. So you can see that I sort of slip out of the wave here, and I would rather stay more connected with the wave and more on the rail. again, so I'm just really trying to use the power of the waves. You can see I'm bouncing all over the place. This is an example of a bottom turn where I'm really using the wind a lot. You know, you can see from the position of the sail where I am on the wave that I'm not really using the wave that much to get this speed. And so I'm kind of cheating a bit, using the wind to help support me, which can really be helpful for wave 360s, because then you can position yourself really easily. And so that's what I do on this one. So in that case, it was really helpful to have that wind. And here, it's kind of a little similar where, you know, I've kind of sailed in front of the wave, and you can use this technique in a lot of places in Europe when you're overpowered, where you sail in front of the wave, you're coming downwind, you're kind of sheeting out a little bit, and then just really leaning over with your body to get on the rail and kind of keeping the sail sheeted out a little bit, and then coming backing up the wave. So anyway, I've said a lot of different strategies. I hope that some of them resonate. In general, it's hard when it's so windy like this to stay connected on the wave, because it's so easy that, you know, the sail is pulling so much that you're leaning back, which makes it difficult to ride well. It's difficult to get the timing. Also, the waves are doing weird things. This section was so scary. So this aerial, I remember this aerial. Because if you look at the lip here, you've got kind of these two lips. So you've got like a lip here and a lip here. So the lip is over a meter thick, and the wave just starts to dump. And it's so windy. It was a little bit onshore. And I wasn't really sure what this section was going to do to me. And so I just thought, okay, I've got to just put my board in the right position and just have faith. And so it's just get that high five. You can see I get the board upside down to connect with the wave, to get that high five, and then just have faith that it's going to throw me somewhere safe. And you can see like my body is a little bit like it's not very compact. I'm kind of extended because I'm not really sure what's happening, and I want to be ready for anything. And so then here I start kind of seeing where I'm going to land, and so I start preparing for the landing. And I was worried about my knee. You know, I injured my knee a year ago, and the landing was pretty hard, but by the end, fine. Yeah, that was kind of a scary one. All right, so Sven, that's a bit of an answer. Let me know if that's helpful. Ben Proffitt created this video about the micro back loop, which might be useful for some of you who are learning back loops. It's an interesting approach to the back loop, and there's some elements that I really like about it for learning the back loop, because one of the biggest challenges I have in my coaching is how do you unlearn using your body to rotate and really whipping the back loop around and getting those over rotated back loops. And I think this is a good method for that, right? At least it's worth trying a few times just to feel something different in the back loop. And then, like, I know that there's some of you guys who are really close to landing back loops. Maybe you land 1 out of 10, but often you're over rotating. Maybe doing one day of these is enough to sort of teach your body, you know, that another way of doing them. And then when you go back to doing normal back loops, you're not over rotating, you're rotating with your head and you have control. All right, Sven, can I tell you a bit more about how I depower at the initiation of the first bottom turn, so to avoid the rig being pulled out of your hands? Yeah, so there's a couple methods. And so if it's kind of side shore, kind of down the line, you can really sheet in hard and push the sail forward while leaning forward, kind of like a lay down jibe almost. Though I don't like that analogy so much, because I think a lot of lay down jibes, you're not really on the rail and the sail's really far back, but it is still kind of similar to that. And that will kill the power in the sail. The problem with it is, as you're doing that, there's a lot of pull in the sail, and so you have to fight through all that pull to get to the point where then the sail depowers and you're coasting. So that can be a bit of an issue with that technique. Otherwise, if you're keeping the sail more upright, then you're kind of sheeting in, but kind of letting the sail just fly. And so then you're really twisting your body to keep, here I can show an example, twisting your body to keep the sail upright and sheeted out. So that's kind of like this turn. So like here, I'm kind of just going down the line. I'm really using the wind, not the wave. And so you see, I'm holding the sail away from me, which is, I think, important. So you've got these straight arms. And then I'm really just leaning super hard. And so you can see that I'm initiating the bottom turn while I'm already going down, like downwind. So it's not so much of a turn that needs to be on the rail. And you see guys doing this in Pozo all the time, or Cabezo, these other onshore spots in Europe. And so it's definitely a technique you can use. So I think if you're initiating that bottom turn hard from the beginning, you have to either really commit to then get the control, or lightly commit and commit later, like this. It's that middle ground where you get that really, really strong pull. But even then, sometimes when you're doing this, you're going to end up getting the sail pulled out of your hands. And it happens to the best in the world. If you look at the World Cups in Pozo or Tenerife, when it's really windy, you see that happening to everyone, whether it's, Philip Koster or whoever. So it's just hard when there's a lot of wind. But I think that this technique can kind of work. So you're going downwind with the board kind of flat, and you're kind of steering downwind, and then you see the section you want to turn, and that's when you really start leaning into it and getting on the rail. I might have an example. I think I have another example somewhere. Yep. I do somewhere. Where do I have another example of that? I know I have another example. I was just watching it. Yeah, Bart, I hope those are helpful. So those are 3 things you can implement. Let me know how they go. And as always, post more content, post more questions. And if you want more notes, also let me know. I mean, I think those notes are 3 solid things to work on. But if you need more, it's also not a problem for me to give it. So all right, so here's another maybe few examples where it's pretty windy. So again, this one I'm kind of going downwind, let the sail stay open, then really lean into it. I mean, here this is, I don't know what I'm doing on that wave. That wave's not even breaking. So again, kind of going downwind and then leaning into it. I don't know what's going on with that wave. Yeah. So I don't know, Sven, if that makes sense. I think also you'll be surprised how useful it is to use the power of the wave in those kind of conditions. So the more you're using the power of the wave to generate your speed, sort of the less the sail matters, and you can let it kind of just float. Like, it's difficult if you're really relying on the power of the sail and you're so powered. So that's also another technique when it's so windy like that, just to really make sure that you're getting speed from the wave, because then you can be sheeting out more of the sail or just using the sail less. But let me know. I think this is a little bit confusing, and it's definitely difficult. It's definitely more difficult than doing a bottom turn when it's not so windy. So there's definitely nuances here. Let me know if that's clear, and if it's not clear, what's not clear about it. All right, Tomas, I think we already went through these forwards. Let me know how the progress has gone. All right, Kevin asked 2 questions. When you're sailing switch stance, you want to get out of it. What is the footwork you normally do? I've asked this question before, still interested to see what others do. And then also, does anyone have issues with their harness lines not being unhooked when about to tack or going down the line on a wave? I'm using 32 lines, and sometimes they do not come out when I try to unhook. Okay, so the first question is when you come out of switch stance. So the easiest way to come out of switch stance, which this is kind of like a false answer, it's not a real answer to your question, is to do a switch stance jibe. And you just turn around and you go back the other way. But I'm assuming you want to keep going the same way, but get out of the switch stance. In which case, you want to come out of the back strap first, move that foot sort of near to the front strap, maybe even in the front strap of the new side, and then you take out the front strap, and make sure that you're kind of sheeting out a little bit, so you're kind of coasting, so things are neutral while you're doing the foot switch. But like I said, the easiest way is just to slam on your heels, do a switch stance jibe, and go the other way. All right, flip the sail, and then go the other way. Now the question about the harness lines and being hooked in. So I find that this can happen if my hook is too loose. So it depends on the kind of harness that you have or the brand of harness. But sometimes some harnesses allow for a really loose hook, and that will cause exactly this problem that you're describing. So you want to make sure that your hook is tight. So you can ride the harness loose, but still have the hook tight. Some harnesses, that's more difficult to do. So for example, the harnesses with a sliding bar, that's really difficult to do. And I think that's one of the problems with those harnesses. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I switch. I grew up using a sliding hook, and so that's what I was used to. But for some of the reasons, this is one of the key reasons why then I forced myself to learn how to use a fixed hook, and I switched to a fixed hook harness. So that can be one of the reason. What Nick says is you want to sort of pull down on the boom rather than coming up to unhook. I think I do a combination of both. I'm pulling down on the boom, but I'm also kind of standing up a little bit and putting my hips in to unhook. So you want to make sure you're doing both. But the first thing I look at is the hook, Kevin. All right. What else do we have? I love seeing we had 119 responses to where people are sailing last weekend. That's super cool. From all over. Domnom sending it today in Normandy. Patrick was on the water in Switzerland. Johan in Sweden. Malcolm was in Ireland. Ryan was in Squamish. Oh, what did I do? So it's super cool to see. Love seeing where you guys are sailing and all the spots around the world. Love seeing this. This is maybe something I want to start doing every week or every 2 weeks, seeing where everyone is sailing. And it's great to get pictures too. So seeing like, okay, this is Jeff in Manzanita, in Oregon, right? That's in Oregon, Jeff. That's super cool to see. All right, this is from Alex, showing some technique on a backside off the lip. Solid technique here from Alex. I like it a lot. You can see he's really laying the sail down. Like the way I think of it is you're really jamming everything towards the tail of the boards. You're bringing everything into your shins, putting your weight towards. So it's like the weight and the sail and everything is going here. I don't know if you can see where my mouse is, but it's like everything, your weight, your sail is being thrown into this area, which is like down in front of the wave and a bit down, downwind. And then I love seeing that he's touching the sail on the water means he's extending it as much as possible. And then you get some nice pop when you do that move. So that's cool. I like that. All right. Here's cool thing from Sim about his son learning to windsurf. It's great to see kids getting into the sport. Yeah, I've got some old jerseys. When I was packing for Portugal, I found some jerseys, and I know I have some on Maui. And so it'd be cool to give some away. I've got to think about what that looks like in terms of competitions or random raffles or whatever. So I'm thinking a little bit more. I just want to see if there's interest, and it sounds like there is a lot of interest. Yeah, Axel was back in Portugal. I want to hear more about how that went, Axel. Fabrice, the legend, has updated more of the coaching workbook. Greg is asking about his tri-fin setup. So the main recommendation I have for thruster setups is for most boards. This is different if you have a really wide tail, like on the Stuppy boards. But for most boards, for a thruster, you want to have 10 on the side. And what I'm used to riding are the K4 Ezzy fins. And so there might be other brands that have different areas, so you want to be on an 11 or a 12. But for the Ezzies, I think you want to be with a 10 centimeter side fin, and then you adjust your middle fin. So if you're on the lighter side, say under 75 kilos, maybe a 16 Scorcher is good for you. Then if you're a bit heavier, 17 Scorcher. Greg, so if you're got your weight in here somewhere, I think you're around 220, I think you said in here. I don't see it, but that's what my memory is. You probably want to be on a 19 or a 20, maybe even a 21. So a little bit bigger on the rear fin. But I'm a firm believer that you want to keep the side fins around 10. I don't think you want to go too big with the side fins. I think you want to just keep adjusting the middle fin bigger as you need it. At least that's my experience with the K4 fins. But one of my biggest tenets is you gotta test. Try different things. I've got so many fins. I go with a bag of fins to the beach, always trying different things because you never know what you're gonna find. So Greg, what I really recommend is trying it. So that's what I recommend, is having something like 10s on the side and 20 maybe in the rear. It sounds like Jeff, who's a similar weight, has kind of a similar fin setup to what I just said. So he's got 10.5s and 21, or 10s and 22s. So I think that works. And I really like the plastic fins. I think you can really push on them, but you've got to try them. All right, Zoltan wants to join the forward loop course. Forward loop course is already going. There's going to be another course coming up. And I'll let you guys know in the group when that happens. Speaking of courses, because I think we're at the end of the posted content and questions, I'm thinking of doing, if it works for people, so I'm going to do a post in the group as well about this, but I'm thinking of doing 3 in-person clinics this year. So that would be one in Denmark in September, one in Portugal in August, and one in Tenerife either end of July or early August. So those are my sort of tentative dates. So we'll see what the interest is in the group. And then of course it depends on all the corona restrictions. I just got my second vaccine shot today. So I'm expecting to be able to travel around, but I know that there's no guarantees these days. So anyway, I'm going to post that in the group. I've had a lot of people asking about plans for doing real life coaching, real life clinics. And so the idea would be, I want to have these kind of themes. So the Tenerife one would be about onshore riding. with some jumping. The Portugal one, I really like the idea of doing a devil's tack clinic. And maybe Portugal could be, I could see myself going there for 2 weeks and doing 2 clinics. I've got to see what the interest is, because I could see doing a devil's tack clinic where everyone is coming from port tack and learning starboard tack together, or just a general wave riding clinic. And then Denmark, which was our clinic last year, which was a huge success, is sort of just general wave sailing theory. So I'm going to do some more posts in the group, and you guys let me know what you're interested in, and we'll see what we can make happen. Again, this is such a strange year. Next year, hopefully we can start planning these things way ahead of time. But I'm stoked to sail with you guys and plan something. I think we've gone through everything that was posted. You guys know the drill. Post your photos, videos, questions, everything else in the Facebook group, and I'll answer it in the live stream next week, Sunday. We're coming into summer in Europe, which for some means less wind, some means more wind. If you're sailing, get some footage. The best way to get better is just to see yourself. Before you get any coaching, just seeing yourself is huge, and your brain connects the feeling to what it looks like. And you'll be so surprised when you see footage of yourself for the first time. You will be so surprised, and that is the quickest, easiest way to learn. Even if you just have a friend or a significant other, your husband or wife on the beach filming with an iPhone, really, really makes a difference. Otherwise, getting a GoPro can be useful. I find that the mast mount or the helmet mount are probably the best for learning. The boom mount depends where it is on the boom, but boom mounts have a tendency to be difficult and to see what's going on. So get some footage of yourself. If you're sailing, get some footage of yourself. It's really the best way to learn. It's so huge. It's so huge. I'd love to come to Norway too. I don't know if it's consistent enough to do a clinic, but I really want to get up to Norway and sail. All these pictures from Lista and these other spots just look so good. So that's on my list. And I think it's not so hard from Hamburg, but we'll see. We'll see how everything goes. All right, I'm going to sign out. I think that we've covered everything that's in the group. Again, post anything you want in the group. I'm around. I'm in Hamburg this week, so I'll be around. I know this last week I wasn't very active in the group because I was chasing conditions myself, and I'm hoping to get some footage. So the guy I was filming with, Matt, super nice guy in Portugal, he's going to send me the footage, and fingers crossed that we got some good stuff, and I'll post it in the group. Alrighty, I'm going to sign off. Have a great week. I'll see you in the Facebook group. All right, take care, everyone.